Well, it is now 6 past, and I think we just would start, and we will see what happens when people join in. Is that okay with everybody? Um, I am Guus van der Brekel. Um, I think this Zoom was automatically turned on for recording. We will see what we're going to do with that. But if people object or for this being public, or then we will just use probably the transcript or anything. We will see. Um, I I will do a brief introduction into the project, Inuit Art Portal and Floyd, and into me. Then we know the schedule. I think Linda will tell something after we have introduced ourselves to the group, hopefully. Linda will do a talk about her book, and Martha will tell us something after that, after a discussion about the museum and her connection with Floyd, I think. And after that, I will show you around on the website and tell you the things that have changed for the portal, for the Floyd Kuptana dedicated site, what we still have on plan to do, and what I'm working with. So that's what we're going to do. We are flexible. It is, in my opinion, it's going to be a very informal meeting. So please keep the cameras and the audios open, or at least open the audio when you want to say something. I started the Inuit Art Portal, I think 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago, to share more my interest for Inuit art. And I work as a medical librarian in an academic hospital in Groningen in the north of the Netherlands. My wife is Canadian. That's where the infection for Inuit art came from. Um, and yeah, it got a little bit out of hand. I have 2 major projects running. One you see behind me is a public Inuit art map where you can, it's a Google customized map where you can see all locations where publicly Inuit art is available for free and is spread worldwide. It's interesting. It was a very interesting topic, and it's ongoing. The same project is also ongoing. Is of course the Floyd Kuptana um, project, where we want to share more of Floyd's art and work and life with more people, and awareness of what he did, and just trying to get as much of information about Floyd and his works that we can gather. This is basically what it started. Um, Together with Ed and the people from Gallery Arcturus, we had this idea to do that, and I did most of the research online, and I will share you more. Um, so everybody is comfortable with the Zoom. I think I see that Mary McCosh, is that right? You joined.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Carl is here with me. Yep.
I'm Carl.
Yep.
Hello. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Marie and Carl.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you, Leslie.
Nice to
Yeah.
see you guys.
Luckily, we got people in that didn't get the link or not as clear as we wanted. So I would like to, I introduce myself a bit. Can I ask everybody to just briefly introduce themselves, like name, where you're from, and what the relation with Floyd was, or very briefly. I don't know what the order is on your side, but Ed is on my left. Ed, could you introduce?
Why don't you wait for me in case JP comes?
Okay, it's good. You maybe have to
waiting for JP, and in case he does come late, I'll introduce him as well. But
okay, Linda.
Yes, hello. I'm Linda Rainaldi. I'm in Vancouver in Canada. I met Guus through my research on outsider art and his particular interest in
Yeah.
Floyd.
Yeah.
I met Floyd during my research in 2019, and I met with him, I think, about three times over 3 days in Toronto. So Guus has asked me to just talk about Floyd as a person and my what I learned from him.
Yep. Okay, thank you. We'll hear more about that later. Thanks, Linda. Robert or Richard or a different order? You're both muted.
Am I on now?
Yes.
I'm Robert Switzer, and although I never met Floyd, I became familiar with his especially 2D art through the Arcturus gallery and Aaron Boyd. And we purchased a number of things. And although he's not been featured in any museum exhibitions that I've seen, I'm really attracted to his art. And like I said, I never met him, but I've heard so many stories, I feel like I knew him. That's all.
Okay.
Richard?
I'm interested in Floyd. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm interested in Floyd primarily as a subject of research. I have a fairly extensive collection of his works, 2D work from the periods in which he was associated with Arcturus Gallery, and have published a couple of articles on him, one in Inuit Art Quarterly, one in the Outsider magazine, which is published by Intuit, the Outsider Art Museum in Chicago. And I've done several presentations on Floyd, which Guus has very nicely posted to the portal. So those are accessible on YouTube. And I just love the intensity of his work. It seems to me that you get more punch per square inch with Floyd than practically anybody else that's out there in that regard. I think he's very much like Basquiat. And I think proper appreciation of his works would be one of the ways to upgrade discussions of Inuit art in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's an artist who really could do a lot for Inuit art scholarship, except that most places like Inuit Art Quarterly don't take him seriously.
Thank you, Richard. We will get into that. I had some encounters with them too. That's okay. Leslie, could you briefly?
Yeah, I'm Leslie Saxon West. I'm joining you from the West Coast of the US in Washington State. Although I do partly reside, not enough time, in Vancouver, BC. I am a retired professor of Native American art with special interest in artists of the far north. And I do have one sculpture by Floyd. But I've always just loved his work. And I actually loved what Richard just said about you get more punch with Floyd's work. And I agree with that. So I'm also on the board of the Inuit Art Society, which is based in the US. And also I'm on the board of the Arctic Arts and Culture Society, which is based in Vancouver.
Okay.
And thanks for doing this. I'm looking forward to learning more about Floyd.
Yes, I completely forgot the reason why we're doing this today. In 2021, May 25th, Floyd passed away quite suddenly, I think.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing it today, like for its memory. And it would be, I thought it would be a great idea to share stories and have people talk about it and maybe share it. Yes. Martha? Yeah, you're muted, Martha. Sorry. It's yeah. It is a good thing that people mute after talking, but it is still. Okay. You still don't hear? No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now is it better? Yeah, sorry, it got a bit complicated there.
Okay.
Martha Cerny, I'm the director and curator of the Museum of Contemporary Circumpolar Art in Bern, Switzerland. So we started, or we were introduced by Floyd in Toronto by Maslach McLeod, where we immediately purchased 4 pieces. And one of those pieces is what Guus referred to. I must say that Floyd's work is very much appreciated here in Europe because it's going to Paris to the National Museum, but we'll talk about that a bit later. I never met Floyd, have heard many stories about him through different colleagues in Toronto. But we've always been totally impressed with his work, putting, that punch to it that has already been mentioned, but really addressing the contemporary issues that many Indigenous people are faced with in an urban setting or non-urban setting, for that matter, too. Yeah. So more later.
Okay. Thank you. Emil, do you want to say something?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. My name is Emil Simon. I live in Hungary and in the area just north of Aurora. And I own the Wellington Gallery, which is a private gallery. And the Wellington Gallery is the largest gallery north of Toronto. We've been in business for 20 plus years and have hosted many shows. And I really got attracted to Floyd's art about 5 years ago and started collecting what I thought were his best pieces from auctions, other galleries, etc. And I haven't been selling like you'd expect a gallery to do aggressively. I've been more collecting for the time being because I like the work so much. And I continue to do so and promote his work from a private setting. But what I've experienced actually in the last few years has been quite a demand increase in his art. I'm noticing at auctions, for example, there's huge price increases. That his 12 by 12 pieces are selling for over $5,000 now. So he's being followed and he's being collected, his work, and that's exciting. And I really like it. I just find it out for whatever reasons very interesting. It has great appeal among my collectors as well, but they're a little disappointed because I'm not selling the work right now. Chiefly, if you go to my gallery, which is wellingtongallery.com, you'll see the artwork that we have offered for sale, but they're not cheap. The prices are very high because we're not really interested in selling the work right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Emil.
Emil, when you are all talking about Floyd's work, are you talking about his sculptures, his paintings, or both? Like Emil, what were you talking about? Painting or?
Both.
Okay.
I've collected the sculptures. Actually, I also own the one sculpture that was on the cover of Inuit Art Portal a while ago. And there's others. I have about 7 sculptures currently, but I'm looking to acquire more and more. So I love both the sculptures and his paintings.
Yeah, interesting. Marie?
Hi, I'm Marie McCosh. I live in Minnesota. On the Inuit Art Society board, and I've never met Floyd or any, but I was introduced to his work by Elliot with the Inuit Art Trader, and
Yes.
have acquired a number of his pieces. They're just very interesting to look at and study. You know.
Yeah, Elliot actually registered, but he's not here, unfortunately. But maybe they come in later. I don't know. There might
Yeah,
be.
and then
We are in three different or multiple time zones. For me, it's evening.
Yeah.
For Martha too, 8 in the evening, and I think Linda's in Vancouver, and a lot of people are in between probably. Yeah. Then we have left, I think, Ed and JP. I'm sorry. Ed, you're muted.
I didn't catch the other gentleman's name.
Marie, the gentleman's name.
oh, Carl Wilgus is here with me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Shall I go next?
Yeah.
Wait.
Go.
Oh, yeah, I'm Carl. I'm a member of the Inuit Art Society as well and on the board. And briefly, Elliot was also the reason that I ended up discovering Floyd work.
Yeah.
I never met him, but I am obsessed, and I ended up acquiring more pieces. And the thing that just keeps coming to mind is that old quote of Michelangelo about releasing the sculpture from the stone. Floyd's work makes the stone flow into the multiple shapes that seem to be evolving. So it's such a dynamic. I love it. I love the way it looks, feels, and the stone is transformed and it's magical. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
That's definitely interesting to see, and I think it's also interesting to see when he started painting and that he tried to do that too. But we'll get to that later. It was interesting. Thank you, Ed, JP.
Okay, so I'm here with JP Albaya. I'll let him talk after I blab. And I work at Gallery Arcturus. Some people call me the front man there because I'm at the front desk. And we have had Floyd many, many times at the gallery, including working in pastel and sculpture and paint and collage. And currently we have a long play, a very large retrospective of his sculptures, primarily his sculptures, thanks in large part to JP's collection. And Guus has documented it very well. Thanks. If you go to the Inuit Art Portal, you'll see almost all the pieces that are on display and some that aren't currently on display. And I'll turn it over to JP because he worked with Floyd almost 30 years.
Yeah. I met Floyd. I was apprenticing with David Rubin Pictocon. And Dave went to Ottawa for a seminar. I think there was 300 or 500 Inuit artists. And he was there for, I think, 4 or 5 days. He came back and he had Floyd with him. And long story short, he asked me to look after him. He didn't get lost in the city because he had just recently moved from up north. So for 3 days, he followed me 2 steps behind me and he stepped in my footsteps. And this was in the middle of July. And finally, after 48 hours, I said, Floyd, you can look around. He looked on the ground the whole time. He never looked up. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that's because if you're in the north and you're walking in the snow, you walk and you're in other people's footsteps. You don't walk nilly-grilly because you don't know where there's a hole through the ice or through the snow. Anyway, over the years, I've carved with him 2 or 3 months a year for 25 years. I had a little health problem a few years ago, so I had to stop carving with him, but he was an interesting character.
Yes, yes, he
It's
was.
amazing to watch an artist create something for the first time. I watched Dave Rubin do it, and then I watched Floyd do it. Floyd's first carving he carved here was a 15-inch whale, and he brought it to, I don't know the name of the company. It's the largest Inuit buying company in the world. They had over 250,000 pieces. They were at a warehouse in near the airport, but I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, they gave him $70 for it. So now you have a 15-inch piece. It's probably worth a little more.
Definitely.
But I'm not sure Floyd was an enigma. He was created by the school systems. They all were. All the native artists were created by the school system. So what you see is a mix between what they didn't learn and what they shouldn't have been taught.
Mhm. That's interesting. I hope we can hear more stories. When you think of them, please, JP, just interrupt and share it with us.
Gus, I want to apologize. When you texted me a time to call me, I forgot that you were 6 hours ahead of us. But I texted you back and told me, call me anytime,
That's no
like
problem.
around 9 p.m. your time. That's good for me.
That's no problem. We'll do. No
Do
problem.
it.
It's great that you're here.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I want to make the connection with the gallery and my public Inuit art, but that's really how it started. Like, Gallery Arcturus is a public gallery, freely available, and I was looking for pieces that were that were available over the world, and I ended up in the gallery. Like, okay, but anybody can go in there, and then they have a huge Inuit art collection, which turned out to be one majorly artist, Floyd Kuptana, and that was a huge hit. There was a nice work to document that, and then I found more. I found out that Martha had six in her six huge, impressive works. And there's even a Dutch museum who has one small piece found out recently. So it is interesting where they all ended up, but we haven't been able to collect them and document them all. Okay, but we will get to that later. Thank you all for this brief introduction. Like I said, let's keep it informal. If you have a question or if you want to share something, please let's do that. But for now, I would like Linda to take the floor and tell us about your experience with Floyd in your interviews.
Okay. Okay, so I met Floyd on my very, very long research and travel period of exploring outsider art in Canada. I came to the outsider art world sort of later in life. I was graduated with my law degree in 1979, and had always had an interest in art, and my minor in my bachelor's was in fine arts, and I suddenly bumped into this world of outsider art, and I thought, well, how is it that I've never heard of this in Canada? And so I started just by Google searches and finding any reference to outsider art, and I ended up going to the Outsider Art Fair in New York City, and there were no Canadian galleries there, and there were no Canadian artists. And I would ask people, where are the Canadians? And they say, I don't know. where are where are the Canadians? So I realized that I had a long project ahead of me. So really for about the last maybe 15 years, I just started wading through the fine arts system to find out what I could. And in one of my contacts, phone calls across Canada, I contacted Arcturus, and because I didn't have any contacts in Toronto, and asked if they had any knowledge of outsider art and so on and so forth. And that led to them suggesting that I look at Floyd's work. And so in 2019, I started traveling across Canada to meet artists and gallerists to learn what I could. And I felt that in all of the academic books that I'd read about outsider art, both European and North American, no one ever interviewed the artists or asked them for their personal perspective on their art world. And I thought that that was really an important element that was missing. And so my work was very personal with the artists. I met all of them. I spent as much time as I could with them. Many hours with each one of them, phone calls, in person. They reviewed the final draft of my article about them. And so I think it's fair to say that I knew them all quite well. I'm still in touch with many of them. I didn't include everything that we talked about because, as you can imagine, some of it was very personal and not relevant to the discussion. But so when I went to Toronto, I asked to meet up with Floyd, and I did. And so I went to his studio, which was in his home. He lived in a basement suite in a house in Toronto. And I met him, I think it was over 3 different days. I spent a day talking to him in his studio in front of his canvas. And we went for lunch another day, and we went grocery shopping another day. We just sort of hung out, really. And I'm pretty sure that you all know the Floyd's biography, but this is what I learned. He was 55 when I met him in 2019. He was born in 1964 in Cape Perry, Northwest Territories. It's a very small community, population 400 people, 1 co-op store. His family worked on the dew line there, and I think you all know what that is, right? The early warning system up north, and many Inuit communities were engaged in that project, not always willingly, but that's what his family did. His parents were alcoholics, so he lived with his grandparents, and they raised him from a young age. He has very fond memories of his grandparents. He spent a lot of time with his grandfather doing the traditional lifestyle activities of hunting and fishing and trapping. And he spoke about that in a very loving way. He really did adore his grandfather. His grandmother, he didn't say much about her except that she treated him like a slave, he felt. And
That's exactly right.
does that sound like Floyd? Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah. Floyd, yeah.
she made him, I think the bottom line was that she made him do chores, so he felt like a slave. And she used to ask him to rub her sore feet too, which he very much resented anyway. His life, as he described it, was living in a very small community of family and neighbors, all Inuit, and they spent their time talking about Inuit stories and sharing information and myths and so on and so forth. So that was just a huge, huge part of his life. He was sent to residential school, which was about 300 miles from home, in kindergarten. So that would be age 5 till he was 16.
Did he tell you how he ended up there the first year?
No. If he did, I don't recall.
They came to pick up his 2 older brothers by
Yeah.
plane.
Yeah.
And he was only, I think, 4 years old.
Yeah.
And he was running beside the plane, waving at his brothers. And all of a sudden, the plane slowed down, the door slid open, a hand came out, grabbed his parka, and picked him up
no.
the plane.
A
And
kidnapping.
the reason they would have done that was there was probably no other children that they had to come back for the next year. So that meant that they didn't have to bring those 3 boys back to that. Floyd told me that once they got to there, he didn't come home for 2 or 3 years after.
Yeah.
He first ended up there.
I asked him about his experience in the residential school and his recollections, and I suspect he wasn't forthcoming about it, and I suspect he just felt it was not up for discussion. He just said there were just a lot of children there, and I don't know if you know any more than I do, but
what I know is that it was they were scared to death to go to sleep because they never knew who was going to be chosen next.
Yeah.
And kids disappeared there and were never seen again during the year when they were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And they were never seen again.
Actually, where was the residential school? I didn't make a note of that.
Politics?
No. It was
No, it wasn't Politics.
no, it was on the big island.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
Not the capital of Nunavut. Another. Yeah.
I think it was Inuvik.
Yeah. Floyd told me he wasn't abused by the people who were looking after him, but he was abused by the elder boys.
Yeah.
Which that's
it's become kind of a common story, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
so the one half of that story is that the people who went to the Protestant schools didn't have that problem.
It's interesting. Floyd told me that he came home on holidays. Is that accurate?
They did, yes. But the first couple of years they didn't fly him home because there wasn't anybody for them to pick up.
Yeah.
So it gave them a flight to go all that way.
I see. Okay. And I'm not sure how many children were at the school. Do you know?
Oh, there was hundreds, 300 or 400 kids.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there were 2 sections. There were a male section and a female section.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't together. I don't think they were separate.
Okay. So he said that after he left school, he called it a gang. He was in a gang with his 7 cousins, and they became bootleggers. And I'm sure you've heard these stories. He had a lot of stories about.
No.
They made their own alcohol, he said, from yeast, sugar, rice, and raisins, and they had a bustling business apparently. But of course, he was arrested, and he had a jail term that was attached to his sentencing. And he showed me his tattoo that he got in jail. I think it's a cross or something. You can see it on his arm there. But anyway, after jail, he went to work on the distant early warning line system back in the Arctic. And he also worked for an oil company, he told me. And then the DEW line shut down in the late 80s and early 90s. So I think that must have been a turning point for him. Perhaps you know more about that than I do. But when we talked about carving, he said that he learned to carve by watching his cousin David Rubin, who I think you just mentioned.
Yeah,
They
I
seem
think it was Dave's brother, two of Dave's brothers that he
okay.
I think Dave was in Toronto here for a long time before.
Okay, he seems to have have had a tumultuous relationship with David, and
Dave's one of those guys that was abused by the priest. And
okay. One day when I was there visiting, he said that the day before, David had turned up, and Floyd was convinced that David was there to beat him up and do him serious harm. So of course the police came and took David off, and it was dramatic and traumatic for him. He talked a lot about it. It was frightening, I think, but I got the impression that was the nature of their relationship, although I'm not sure. Anyway, he learned to carve by watching David, and he just admired him so much. He called him a real artist, and was grateful for his training with him. And he started by helping him sand the sculptures, and he also learned from an Ojibwe friend who was a great sculptor. I didn't write down that friend's name. Do you know who that was?
he died. He died, and he would carve in his bedroom, and he used a Dremel tool.
Okay.
So there was 4 inches of dust in his room. Ron. I don't know what his last name was.
Ron. Okay.
Yeah, it was Ron.
I understood I understood that Ron, if that's who it is, may have been his best friend. He was extremely. He talked about him a lot, and it was painful for him. He lost his best friend, and he said that he just still missed him greatly. So he started off by.
Noganash?
No, I don't have my glasses.
Noganash?
No. Wouldn't have been that. I think this Ron was I think his dad was white because he had a Caucasian name. His last name.
What kind of sculptures did he do?
He did a lot of the same stuff Floyd did. He didn't do his native stuff. He did carvings like Floyd, bears and stuff. Sold them on the street.
Okay.
Guus will track him.
I will try and track him, but do you know a year when he possibly passed away? This one?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
No. Okay.
Memory's not there anymore.
Nope. Okay. Well, we'll put it on the list on things to research.
Okay, so Floyd started off by selling what he called trinkets in Tuktoyaktuk, and he didn't say much about that. I don't think he was. I think he did that just to get a start in carving, and they weren't really where he ended up. He moved from Cape Perry to Toronto in 1996, so he would have been 32 then.
Was it 96?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know the rest of the story. I think he said that the first time he saw somebody painting and looked at a two-dimensional work, he said it was just a revelation for him. He had never imagined being able to create outside of a 3D world, and it seemed to have opened up just an entire universe of ideas for him. And he made the switch, he said, from carving to painting because he didn't have an outside studio, and it's impossible to do that work inside. So he said his first paintings were collages, and they were not accepted by any galleries. So he started selling them at flea markets and on the street. And I think that seemed to have been Floyd's main source of income in Toronto, selling work as one-offs at flea markets and on the sidewalk at the lakeshore. He told me when I called from home, and that would have been during COVID, so in 2020, was following up with him, and he said that he had a Russian buyer who would come by every week to drop off supplies and wood panels to him and take away what he had made. Ed, do you know anything about that? He said that the buyer told Floyd that they were for his personal collection, but I have a feeling that he was taking them and selling them elsewhere and probably taking advantage of Floyd not giving him very much for those paintings. Do you know anything about that buyer?
We don't have clear info. There may have been, I mean, we know there was quite a few pieces. Well, he had ongoing relationships, Floyd did, with different people that on Sundays he would go down regularly to the antique market at St. Lawrence and sell a piece directly. And those are documented in kind of fuzzy photos, but with Daniel, who's the buyer at the time, and he would sell them pretty well right away. And Floyd would go. They had a long time relationship. And then I believe a bunch of works were sold through Tain Gallery and subsequently to there. There was another, I'm not clear on, that's for another time.
Yeah. So the Tain Gallery has a Russian owner. I think it's Shalom.
Is that a gallery in Toronto?
It was yes, Shalom Sadikov, I think is his name. And but there are other people who have collected or got directly paintings and sculptures from him. Daniel was one, and yeah, maybe we'll get to talk about the paintings in the later period.
Yeah.
I think the Russian guy he referring to was Shalom. Wouldn't you say, Ed?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So talking about the many hours that I spent with him, Guus, do you have a picture of the Picasso painting?
Yes, I have the picture of Picasso in the Zoom meeting. There's a section called Documents. Let's see if I can share that. There's documents in there, and I put your pictures in there. Maybe I can share it in the meeting. Let's see if I can do that. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, it's blank. Here we are.
Probably.
Okay, there's Floyd.
It's loading. So here we go. You took this picture, so you better.
Yeah, this is these are my personal photographs. This is Floyd at home.
That's Floyd at home.
And okay, so
shall I show the Picasso first? This one.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I think it was on my second visit there, he had ripped this page out of a magazine, and it's a Picasso painting called Jacqueline from I think 1955, and he was going to do his interpretation of it. And so go back to the previous one with the yellow. That was the start of it, and I never saw it finished. I'm not sure if it ever did get finished, but the Russian buyer who would come told him, "I don't want that Picasso crap."
Yeah.
Just do your Inuit art. But anyway, Floyd was sort of experimenting with with contemporary art, I think. Anyway, so
I've been looking for a painting with that background and the yellow, but I haven't found it yet. But
yeah, I don't know whatever happened to it. But
so many. So yeah.
Yeah. So you know, I sat on this is just in front of his sofa, and I sat beside him and we talked for many hours, and he talked about you know, as he's talking about, I always wanted to talk to the artists about their process, because for me, oh, that's the one that was finished when I got there, and I actually own that piece. So there's Floyd, just being delighted that he had company and someone to talk to. Floyd, when he's talking in front of his canvas, he's always looking at the canvas, talking to me about his process. And it was interesting to me as a carver, he's always shaping the air with his hands in front of the canvas and describing, you know, what he's going to do. And you know, he still, I think, thought in a three-dimensional way, but somehow had to transfer this to a two-dimensional image. But you know, he looked at the canvas the whole time we were talking and described to me how he was going to you know, shape these images and so on and so forth. And so Floyd is a person, I know, you know, he was an alcoholic, and it was he painted. I do believe he had a love of painting and putting his mythology knowledge on canvas, but you know, he needed money. And but he had a social network, I think, a small personal social network. But also one day when I was there, the social workers came to check up on him, and I don't know how often they stopped, but I got the impression it was regular, to make sure he was okay, that he was eating, that he was in good health, and so on and so forth. But Floyd was extremely lonely, and I don't know what his network was, but he contacted me so many times and left messages on my cell phone that I had to talk to Arcturus about, talking to Floyd several times to make him stop. My phone messages would end up being full because he would just speed dial me and leave endless messages. And I couldn't get messages from any of the other artists I was meeting with, but it was just the source of that was his loneliness and his need for human connection, I think. And his messages were always telling me about how extraordinarily lonely he was, and would I please come back to visit, and would I marry him? Would I come and live with him? I mean, it was, it's sort of funny, but it's heartbreaking. And so, you know, he was really, you always hear stories about people leaving their small communities and moving to the big city. And I think it was a classic example of that, of just being
Exactly.
away from his community and just completely lost.
It would be the same thing if you went up north and you moved into one of their communities and you'd be lost. It would be the same thing.
Yeah.
And the only way he knew to combat it was alcohol.
Yes. Yeah.
Did he have a group of people from where he came from? Other native people?
Most of his friends, a lot of them were native, but they were indigenous native. They weren't Inuit. There was
because a lot of people refer to him. I looked on the Facebook thing. A lot of people refer to him as Rocky. Where did that came from?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Those seem to be people who are still up there or who knew him up there.
Yeah.
Not in the city.
Oh. Okay.
Rocco.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. No, I can't say I've ever heard. See, I'm an alcoholic. I quit drinking 39 years ago. So I didn't hang out with Floyd and Dave when they were drinking. That's why I never had a problem with them. The people that had problems with them is if they were out drinking with them, then sooner or later you were going to have.
Yeah.
And Floyd wasn't dangerous, but
Yeah.
Dave is dangerous. Dave,
Well, I know I've got a couple of people I work with might disagree. We're talking about punchy. Some of the works. I was going to ask you if he ever tried to punch you, but
well, he did once, but I explained to him he didn't want to do that. That's what he did.
But Linda, you wrote a piece in the book about him.
Yes.
That was interesting.
Yeah. The other interesting thing was maybe Ed, you had talked to him more about this at the gallery, but he there was a sense of sadness or bitterness about his he felt that he was overlooked in a sense and wasn't given credit for being a great sculptor. And he said that he had a sculpture in the National Gallery, and he felt that he should be given more recognition for that. He also talked several times about being asked to be at the gallery to do a carving in public. And he found that, well, I may be putting words in his mouth, but in some ways humiliating. He said he felt like a trained monkey having to perform. And I can appreciate how that would feel, but I don't know if he ever talked to you about that, Ed.
It's interesting. I've talked to so many people who feel that Floyd's work needed and needs better recognition. But with me, that didn't come up too often that I recall. I mean, I may not recall our earlier conversations, and I knew he'd sometimes be in a phase where he was, very big on himself, and a few times he would brag. I had a piece on the cover of Slate Mag and others, but that didn't come up too much with me. I think it's come up since then with other people. Like that was been my feeling a long time, but I don't actually remember getting the feeling from him. But yeah, you got more out of him on a bunch of topics.
Yeah.
He, as far as, what was the situation where we had? See, most of the work he did at the gallery was actually two-dimensional.
Yes. Yeah.
And of course, documented in the books that Deborah Harris, the curator at the gallery, has created. And you can, I don't know if everyone knows, but they're on our website or on Blurb, and they're all downloadable, or you can order you can get them for free. And the transition point when he went to two dimensions, I remember, I have a different story of it, and I don't want to give it. I think my story is more fun, but it's maybe less truth than what is in the book. And but certainly when the first few pieces, the materials that they were on, the tabletop, with the nails sticking out of it, the staples, and that. And I think it was agreed that it was because he was short of stone. It was difficulty getting stone, but definitely the inability to have a good studio and then track of his tools, not have them stolen. I mean, how many times is his tools stolen? And the effort at the gallery to have him sculpt. We have him on video. There's a lot of videos of him sculpting, with a cigarette in his mouth. And
but I guess that wasn't public. That was like with other artists together.
No, the sculpting, he would be down below the stairs. We've set up this zone that would sort of be a little bit warm, but not too contained, that the dust wouldn't go to, like he wouldn't suffocate from the dust. But he'd always have a smoke in his mouth. But if you came by, and then one day some folks came by from the I guess the Inuit Art Quarterly, and he put one of them to work. Like if you, this is JP's territory. What would happen if he was working on a piece and he figured out you had the least inkling to work on the piece or to learn about sculpting? And that was an opportunity for him to supervise.
I have to also tell you that he had quite a wicked sense of humor. He loved to tell stories and tell stories about himself. And he used to, his favorite, which he would act out for me every time I saw him, was that he would be selling his work on the street and he'd call out like a sad soul and say, can you help me? I'm pregnant. And then he would laugh for the next 5 minutes, like this was the most hilarious. Anyway, I heard that story probably 100 times because every time he told it, he thought it was absolutely hilarious. Anyway, he also played nonstop Drake's song, You Used to Call Me on Your Cell Phone. I probably heard that song 4,000 or 5,000 times because he was
I think we're going off the rails on Gus's agenda here, but
okay.
the song he played with me all the time was God's Plan by Drake. And God's Plan is a movie where Drake gives away basically $1 million in the video. And remember that Floyd, if he got a big payout,
yeah,
be anybody here, correct me, but he would spend that money in a few days, a lot on himself.
Yes.
And also he'd get basically a banquet dinner and invite whoever.
Wow. Okay.
People he knew. Yeah, JP's shaking his head. So,
Yeah.
but he'd blow all the money.
Yeah.
Right. But he'd be like giving it away, and I don't know if that's why he loved God's Plan. Although
If he was at a bar and there was 4 waitresses in the bar, he would order a beer, and one of the waitresses would bring him over a beer. And he would pay for the beer, give her a $10 tip, and then the other 3 waitresses would come and he would give them a $10 tip because he didn't want to show favors to anyone. So he gave them each a $10 tip. So each beer cost them like $55.
That's good.
Most of the time.
His final message to me on reviewing the final draft of his article was, just make sure you tell them I'm a genius. So I'm passing that on to you. Anyway, he did have a wonderful sense of humor. We laughed a lot, but
he did. He had a great smile.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Linda, thank you so much. Thank you much for sharing, and we can continue, but maybe after our
of course,
after the session of Martha and me showing a little bit of the project. Thank you. Wonderful. Martha, can I ask you to tell about, expand more about the works that you have, and of course your interesting name change of the museum.
Right.
Before, now Museum of Contemporary Circumpolar Art
came about. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Linda, and also thank you, JP. This has just been quite an ed, of course, too, for sharing so many stories that puts a lot of meat on the bone for me. We have okay, first of all, why we used to be Cerny Inuit Collection, then we were Museum Cerny Contemporary Circumpolar Art, and because of the whole decolonization project that is going on, we took the Cerny name out of it, and we started collecting here in Switzerland in the 90s and put the name on what artwork we had was Cerny Inuit Collection. That's the only reason we had put our name on it. And then it became kind of like a branding. We started with the gallery in 2001 and realized no one knew what we were talking about here in Bern, Switzerland. So after I got my master's at Zurich University of the Arts, we opened up a museum. And we didn't want our pieces to stay at home. We wanted to share it with a public and also share the stories. I mean, why this art was available to begin with, a la forced sedentary, putting the Inuit in villages, residential schools, and that kind of thing. And what we are really is a platform for the voices, and the voices are the artwork and the interviews with the artists. And Linda, we're like that too. We write an article. If the artist is living, we ask them if it's okay if we use the interview that we use, but when the text is finished, it goes back to the artist to get the okay. That's super, super important for us, because besides, we've had 2 publications done with the collection, just to give people an idea of what we have and some of the messages that is coming out, and then the exhibition catalog. We had a 1.5-year exhibition at the North American Native Museum. It was like only of our collection because it was an anniversary collection, and that book featured a lot. It was basically 2 pieces from Floyd. The one was a totem, which I call my Picasso, before I knew that he was into Picasso. I mean, it was just so evident in a sense, but in his own style. And then the other is Sedna lamenting about the loss of the sea ice. And that's the piece that's going to Paris. It's the National Museum of the History of Migration. The exhibition is from the 15th of October until this year, until the 5th of May in 2026. So besides that boat from Floyd, will also be a boat from his other cousin, Abraham Angic Rubin. And then what else? We have 5 pieces going there. There's a Sami artist going there too, but they're interested in showcasing Indigenous art that is addressing these subjects, which is the environment and why some of the migration is taking place to begin with, and all. I also have to tell JP and Ed that I also heard the same story about the residential schools in Inuvik from another cousin, Bill Nazugaliak, that where David Rubin was a lot worse than where Bill Nazugaliak was. That I had heard about before, actually. And I did see some influence of Floyd's work in shaman dancing on the moon that he did in 2009. So our pieces are from 2008 to 2009, and I must say the European audience, or maybe it's also in the setting that it is, because what we have done is talk about the original story of Sedna, and then talking to people about how this figure is still being used to show today's situation in the North, that the artists are still using Sedna because she's very much alive. And instead of being afraid of her, she's either become a comforting, supporting figure, or her life itself is in danger. So so it's very, and for me, when I'm talking about these sculptures now, I can talk a little bit more about the artist than than just his relatives actually, because I never did know him, but I did know a few people who in Toronto who had dealings with him. Yeah. But I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And I don't know, I was Googling when you were talking about that Ron Noganosh with it.
We were looking at that too. We're not sure. I don't think that's him.
No, okay. He from 1949 to 2017 was this Ojibwe artist, but looks like he was more in Ottawa than he was in Toronto. I had just looked at that, but I find that his paintings do have a bit of that style as well. The Norval Morrisseau and and all. And we just had recent contact with the Family Foundation on Vancouver Island. That's what kind of I knew about this session. So when we had we did a slideshow at a conference recently with Norval's works, but had permission from the family to do that. That's why we had the contact. So and it kind of, I was thinking, you know, his style, and also with Abraham Angic Rubin, with his paintings now too. That there's, it seems to me there's a similar style in work. Yeah, yeah.
Martha,
So I
it's
mean,
interesting. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting that you mentioned Sedna because I meant to bring that up, but he talked about Sedna a lot. And in the piece, the first painting that I saw that I have, it's Sedna riding a sea creature, and I also took that as a metaphor, and but I would say that Sedna was the most predominant myth that he adored. And now, was that particular to Floyd, or do you find the other artists are focusing on Sedna as well? Just curious.
Well, Bill Naskaliak has focused on Sedna quite a bit. But there are other artists as well. Yeah, there are other artists as well. Because we also have from Kinket, we also have a painting of a Sedna and kind of below in the waters, and a shaman drumming to her. Her hair has already been combed. And then on the ground, you see all these drums. So you see that she's had lots of visitors. And then Bart Hanna from Iglulik, we have that Sedna is going to Germany. That exhibition will open on the 3rd of October, and the topic is oceans. And okay. Yeah. I mean, we because of the database that needs a lot of work on, it's on our website, and it's publicly available. They find these things, and we're more than happy as long as the proper identification and story goes with the work, then people the other institutions are more than willing. It has to be in the context, not just a piece to decorate something, because there's so much meaning behind it. And Ninkaluk TV, that's another woman artist from Kinket. She uses Sedna quite a bit in her drawings or lithographs, yeah. And that one piece is also going to Bonn and too. But it's interesting that this museum is talking about the oceans, this exhibition, and they are interested in having Sedna present in the exhibition.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I will show your pieces in my demonstration of this site.
Yeah. And there will be catalogs. I just got a request for work, even before the loan agreement has been signed. But the catalog in Paris, there will be 5,000 copies, and in Bonn there'll be 3,000 copies printed of the exhibition. So they're pretty big exhibitions. The one in Paris is they have an aquarium. And so they're also putting artwork in the aquarium, and the artwork deals with the quality of water. It's like the manhole hunter from Jesse Tungalik, and from Jesse's grandfather. So people, and the conference that we were at just recently with an exhibition was talking about art as an icebreaker to address these topics, where you can create a dialogue, and you create a dialogue with the people who have been involved and want to be a part of the healing process. Because if you don't see what the wounds are, then and recognize them, you can't really start the healing process. And I have to say that Switzerland also has its own history of children being taken away from a single parent, or rather than socially support a family in hard times, they would rather take the children away and put them someplace where they could be of better use, or whatever. So it's also making that connection with Switzerland. You have to make that connection with your own community. So if it's environment and the different social measures that were very predominant at that time, yeah. So this is why our platform, or serves as a good basis for these talks, not only with an Indigenous and a Western audience or people, but it's also Indigenous among Indigenous, between each other, because they can also compare their own experiences and how to deal with it, and having it out in the open and all too. Yeah.
Could I say something on a different topic?
Of course, Martha. Of course, Richard.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
There are a couple direct connections between Floyd and the Woodland School, Marvell Morris. So this is from Aaron Boyd. Around the year 2002, Floyd was basically enslaved to a woodland painter named Stephen Strange. If you search Waddington's catalog, there is actually a picture of Floyd painted by Stephen Snake. And so Stephen Snake, moderately known painter, would hire a bunch of people to paint paintings in his particular version of the Woodland School. And then Stephen Snake would sign them. Okay, so Floyd was just cranking out stuff in the Woodland style. Okay, but further, Floyd was selling his sculptures through Maslock Macleod, which was Morisot's main outlet in Toronto. So he would have seen the stuff there.
Yep.
So that connection is pretty clear.
Thank you. That's great, Richard.
I doubt very much that Floyd Kuptana painted with Snake, with Stephen Snake. I remember that time very, very.
So you're confirming the story.
Stephen painted a painting of Floyd that's online.
Yeah,
and it took him 45 minutes. When I was watching him, it took him 45 minutes, and I'm not sure if he finished the face after I left. But I don't think Floyd ever picked up a brush in 2002 to paint.
That was the story that Aaron Boyd told me.
Who's Aaron Boyd?
Aaron.
Aaron Boyd is
the big.
Floyd called him the big guy.
Sorry, what's his last name?
Boyd, B-O-Y-D. He's worked at Gallery Arcturus for a long time until he was the one who knew Floyd.
JP, around what year was this that you're talking about? I'm a bit lost in the sequence here.
It was he painted it. I was living across the street at the Black Bull, and across the street from the Black Bull was what's the name of the restaurant?
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan restaurant, and Mark Duchesne was painting there, and Stephen came to visit Mark, and he met Floyd, and he painted Floyd's picture. But I don't believe that would have been 2003.
Oh, okay.
So it was, but
we can.
Let's check in with Aaron to see if we can confirm what.
Aaron worked in the gallery a long time, and he's currently.
When did Floyd show up at your gallery?
Oh gosh, I don't know the year. I'm not sure the year.
You weren't there?
No, I would have been there. I can't remember the year.
It was
documented. No.
2008 or 9, I think. I don't know.
It's in the books. I'm not a good year remember.
That's an interesting topic where we would need these stories. I'm trying to work on on a timeline of where was Floyd working with what and whom and what did he do. And I'll show some of that. But that's interesting to know. We know that Floyd painted his first painting in 2010 at the Gallery of Arcturus, and we also know his last painting, which was May 24th, because Emil Simon, who left unfortunately, he collected that. He has that painting, he posted that on his website, and everything in between. Must be hundreds, maybe even thousands of paintings and sculptures before, also a lot. We can only collect a few of them, but I think by making an overview of a timeline when they were created, which is not easy, but with stories like this, we will get there. We will get further. So we will check with Aaron Boyd, who's currently in Belgium. He might. Yeah.
Aaron's probably a little camera shy.
Yeah.
I posted a painting of Floyd's that I found in my basement, and he painted it in 2008 when I was at the Black Bull. The Black Bull was a bar, and the owner had a house connected to the bar, so he didn't have a backyard, so we didn't have a place to carve.
Yeah.
The lady next door owned a clothing store, and she had a big backyard. So Floyd gave her a 8 or 10-inch bear, and she let us carve there for a week while we found a studio. And a painter friend of mine, Martin Downs, came by, and Floyd painted this painting, and I showed it to you.
I want to see it again. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah. And when the young lady said that he did abstract or whatever at first, and people didn't take it. Well, this is the most abstract piece that you'll see. And it's got in the back, it says Floyd Kuptana, Polituk, and it was painted over another artist's painting, and her name was Mary something. And there's something there about New York City. But that was 2008. But he only did that one painting then, and that was because Martin was there painting, and he just happened to.
Okay. That is interesting. That would be, then the first painting wouldn't be in the first painting then, but we don't know. We'll find out.
Yes, I think this is one of the biggest groupings we've had so far, and sometimes I think Floyd would tailor some of his information to the person he's talking to, and yeah.
That's interesting.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Martha, for sharing that. I will share my screen and show some of the sculptures that you have. Your database is indeed online. It's a wonderful database. It's nice connecting, also showing where they have been exhibited. That's nice.
That's not only for Providence, but it's also for the artists who are alive and for their biographies, to know where their works have been exhibited. Sorry, and the Providence, as we also say, where we have bought the pieces, so the artists know where there might be a potential market for them. Yeah.
I checked them today. The six you had. I think they're mostly from 2007. A couple of Aslak and a couple
2008, 2009, because we did when we were at Maslax, we bought like 4 pieces all at once, but we were so impressed. We were really so impressed with the work. Yeah,
they were also large pieces. This is like,
yes,
I would have been the one who brought those pieces to Maslack McLeod, because a year or two before that, Floyd was drunk, and he went to Maslack McLeod Gallery, and Maslack lived upstairs, and he got aggressive with him, and Maslack took a stroke. So he wanted Floyd's carvings, but he he got very, very anxious when Floyd would show up. So 2008 and 2009, we were carving at Strawn Avenue, just south of Wellington Street. And most of the carvings he did there went to Masalac McLeod at the time.
Okay.
And your carvings, Ed, of us, JP, your carvings that are currently on display in the gallery, when were they and where were they created? You know?
The smaller ones probably started in 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And the larger ones were when I got this studio on Bathurst Street, 137 Bathurst Street.
Okay.
Those were, you were saying about the animals and the Floyd carved it's at Arcturus Gallery. There's a canoe and a kayak. Yeah. And he carved those two back in 2008. And a couple from New York City came down and saw them and wanted them. But it took Floyd 2 years to carve the figures to go in them. And he only did that after he talked to his aunt in Polituck. And she was telling him that the fridges, their natural fridge wasn't working anymore. The permafrost was melting too fast. And and the next day he showed up and he carved the figures for those two pieces.
He carved the little bears.
He carved two bears. He's wondering what the white man is thinking the animals are going to do for food. Are they going to start floating around in canoes and kayaks? Are we going to teach them how to hunt? I don't think so.
I think I will show some of the pieces from the website. From Martha and from the collection of JP. And then I think, yeah, I will share some information about, there's somebody joining us, Robert Grunewald. I'll see.
Yeah, I was trying to find an image of the, these are great pieces. They're not currently on display, but they're two long craft.
Yes.
And they have
39 inches.
And the boats are made of Quebec slate.
Yeah.
That's an unusual medium for Floyd. They're really sweet. Oh my gosh, these are the ones that should be in the National Gallery.
I will try and share my screen and then share a couple of pictures and then tell you more about the project Floyd Kuptana, if it's okay. Let's see.
Please.
So first we would see this, I guess. No, I don't want to show you that. In front of. Sorry about that. So this is the Floyd website. We have. I think that. I think I'll just go with the overview of the museum and galleries, which is currently a timeline of where they have been.
My eyes are so bad I can barely see it.
And see if I can go all the way back, and then we'll get to the collection of. Sorry about this. I should have prepared this.
No problem.
Okay. So it started in I think 1993. One of the first. Oh my gosh, it's going back a lot. Yes. But this AP, this would be the event where Floyd was a visiting carver in 1996 in Ottawa. This would be the one where Floyd, after that, he came to Toronto,
Yeah.
I think.
I always thought it was 95.
That's Floyd?
No, that's not
Oh.
Floyd. No. But this is the event where
Oh, okay,
Floyd was mentioned as
okay. Oh, I see.
one of the visiting carvers. That's not.
He didn't have to be a bootlegger there.
No. He was mentioned with a lot of other people there. I think there were a couple of hundred carvers.
Oh, yeah. They only did it once.
Yes.
A bottle of booze in Northwest Territories was over $200.
Yes.
Mm.
When they came here, it was $30.
With,
So
with thanks to the gallery, we still have a folder from Maslach McLeod from this from an early period. This is an interesting period, of course. This was the first international exhibition, because it was in New York. It was mainly David Rubin Piktoken, but with Floyd. And yeah, of course, Floyd was a relatively new sculptor, and we have managed to get a hold of one of the price lists of that gallery, of that exhibition. You see the different prices between David Rubin back then and Floyd at that point. But then there was also a very large one. I think these were mainly smaller ones. I will scroll towards the exhibitions from Martha, if I can. So he was in major exhibitions that toured the country, mentioning a couple of books about that. This is a first one, not by Martha, but another gallery in
Basel, yeah.
That was sold there, was then in Basel. And there was the Inuit Art Museum, had a couple of items from Floyd, mainly from Elliot. Let's see, I'm hoping to get to the one. Well, this is the Sedna, talking about Sedna. That's the Sedna that is in the gallery Arcturus.
Yeah.
Answering prayers.
I had a visitor once come from a particular community, and she says there they didn't pronounce the D, so she was Senna or something like that. Have you heard that before? And of course, in some places, she has an entirely different name, and I can't pronounce it.
Yeah. For our exhibition, we listed all the names. There must be at least 20 different names.
Yes. Yeah. So this is the Sedna lamenting the loss of the ice sea, and it's got a link to your database, I think, in there. Yeah, one of the first exhibitions where it was in, I think, 2010. Let's see, there must be more large sculptures. 2014. Here's more mention of an exhibition.
Oh, that's right, in Monaco. I forgot. Yeah.
Monaco. Yes, was there too. And this was the Inuit Art Society meeting in 2016. Had a lot of Floyds. And here's another big mask.
That was when Switzerland was going for the observer status at the Arctic Council. And this was to show the relationship of the mask tradition also in Switzerland. Yeah. That was at quite a few different venues. Just that was in Reykjavik, Iceland, and then it was in at the Technical University in Zurich, and besides us, yeah.
This is your database. The piece is actually 82 centimeters high, so this is huge. This is a massive one. Very good.
Yeah.
Very nice. So that overview of the museum and gallery is work in progress, of course. If I go back up.
Yeah, and he was also present at, we did an exhibition at an international scientific meeting in Davos, Switzerland, with researchers from the Arctic and the Antarctic.
Yes.
And we had an event with the Canadian researchers, and they said that we really put Inuit art on a pedestal because of the way it was displayed. And I said, well, actually, that's where it belongs.
Yes.
It was my comment to them. Yeah, but I've seen it in a different place.
Do you know what year that was?
2015. Yeah,
18.
I believe.
18. It must be.
No. It was after that. So no, maybe it was 2018. Sorry about that. I'm also bad with dates. Or 2019, maybe even. Yeah. Oh, there it is there. That's the next one.
Exhibition, yes.
The one above that.
This one.
18, that was it. Yeah. Polar 2018 in Davos. Yeah.
Two big pieces, one from Floyd and the other from David, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's go back to the top. So it's work in progress. So this is currently on in the Eikeliog Museum of American, Indian, and Western Art, if I'm pronouncing that right. A small piece. I don't know if it's called a Setna, I'm not sure, but probably, again. And there's an overview of the exhibition going on currently in Arcturus Gallery. And these are the pieces currently on display. And I think the kayaks are not here.
Yeah, they're in the fourth floor art store.
Here they are. Here they are.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they don't do them justice. Sorry about that. That's probably my fault.
No, they don't. But they are in here. They're 2008. And you see, if you click the buttons, you get more information about it. They are wonderful. They have more images when we have them. Yeah. And these are the pieces of the collection.
What's that one?
That's yours.
Is that the
PC's theatre?
Yeah. That's the big one?
The big one, yeah. The one that mesmerizes everybody.
I could tell the story about that.
So on the project side, so we are. My workflow is that if I find new items that I haven't seen before, I post them, and my workflow is currently that I first show it on the blog, and then simultaneously I post it on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. That's the workflow I have. Here you see the latest things. So there's going to be a pastel for sale, and these two sculptures turned up in Vancouver, of all places, in the Vancouver Horror Show website. That was a very unlikely find. They were for sale there. And that is, we're still trying to find out where they came from. I think they were, I think the gallery said they came from a couple in Toronto, where they were currently there. The bear is currently on sale. And if you go back, the blog will tell you which paintings have been on sale or auctions there. We have a section, His Life, where I'm trying to collect all kinds of information that have been out there. I'm mentioning Linda's section in the artwork. Richard's work is there linked to it. People have been writing about him. This is a book in Union Station. But the main change for the His Life section is that I had to change, or I wanted to change, or needed to change the section, all the mentions in Inuit Art Quarterly. I emailed Inuit Art Foundation if we could talk about changing Floyd's profile they have there. There's an initial profile available, but if you want to know more, you have to log in. You don't have to be a member or pay, but you have to log in. And they didn't have that much exhibitions or links or references to Floyd. I wanted to talk to them about adjusting that. And then they said, well, we can talk about that, but first you have to take all of our images from the Inuit Art Quarterly off your site because we don't like that.
Oh,
So they are quite strict about that. So that's when I did a complete sweep of all the mentions of Floyd in every Inuit Art Quarterly issue. And when I could, I used different images, not from them, but from somebody else. So now we can go back all the way to the first time Floyd was ever mentioned in Inuit Art Quarterly, which is actually the one about the exhibition, the Great Inuit Art Fair and Symposium in 1996. Yes, and there are links there to the quarterly, and when I could, I added some images there. So that is renewed. The sculpture section is, it's we still keep finding new sculptures we haven't seen before. Looks like there are more sculptures coming on the market. And this one, I'm very happy to say I was able to acquire that from JP. It was in the gallery, but now having a great place in my home. A wonderful sculpture with a base of a little, I don't know what you call it, JP. When was this? Can you say it is a special pink BC steatite?
Yeah, that was 2008.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a carved base. Those are unusual. I don't know what to call that style either. I call them little rockets.
Yeah. Anyways, the sculptures you will find also listed, of course, on date. You can go and scroll back, and you will find them. More and more people are reacting to my response if I ask them to share their sculptures on the website for documentation and to actually find out how this timeline of Floyd works. More people are sharing images either publicly or anonymously. That's all possible, but it is great. These come from, I think these are from John the Iceman.
Great.
He registered 2, and he has more sculptures that will come, but yeah, we have to see.
That's great that's happened. Yes. This is my first time seeing, he sent me snapshots, but this is.
Yeah. No, he sat down and pictured and sent images of these sculptures, including this one. This is really amazing.
So did the Iceman meet Floyd through you?
We rented the studio from him on Strawn Avenue in 2008. That's how he got there.
Yeah.
And are some of these sculptures to pay for rent?
Yes.
Well, if they are, I paid twice because I gave John $600 a month for that space. So.
Okay. Well, I talked to John too a couple of times, and he said sometimes he took a sculpture. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, John registered, but is not here right now. But again, after a lot of discussion and after a few years, I decided to add the painting section too. We had a lot of paintings that we collected that were on auction. so you can also find an overview of the paintings that were on sale or any auctions in the last couple of years. We are having warnings or cautions, or what you say on like disclaimers on this, that people have to be careful, because we have definitely seen paintings that are not originally by Floyd. So we want people to ask about the provenance when they are buying from a certain auctioneers or sellers. And that's a quite actual issue. We decided, if we are not sure about the provenance, or we don't trust the painting, then we're not going to post it in here. That's something that we decided to do. We won't tell that you think it's fake or something, or we just won't post it here. And I don't know how we can maintain that, but yeah, we have discussions about how to evaluate that. So one of my workflows is about keeping track of which sculptures and paintings are actually for sale. And this overview is updated, I think, almost daily, weekly at least, but currently there are like 56. And my workflow is that I check these links for the several galleries or auctioneers where it's on. So there are older sculptures for sale, and paintings and pastels. I'll just scroll back below to see that. So this is a nice big one, the Gallery Le Chariot. So these are the ones, and this is the largest collection of sculptures that are for sale. I think it's in Skokie, Illinois, by Elliot. He still has them, and they're massive. There are boats and migrations. There are monsters with two heads, and I think this is called his second girlfriend. Yeah, I'll go quickly through my workflow for this profile. And this is the table where I check the links quickly to see if there are any news or updated or disappeared, things that disappeared. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I will stop sharing my screen.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, where are we?
Amazing work.
We still have a lot of work with identifying sculptures and paintings where and when they were created, but we're getting there. I'm working on a presentation based on actually the postings from Daniel. Daniel loves art in Instagram. He posted since 2013, like till Floyd's death. He posted whenever Floyd sold items to him or via him. And that's a nice timeline for at least some sculptures and paintings. And that will be out, I think, the next month. Hopefully, it will be finished. Yeah. The intention is to expand, and therefore we ask people, if you have sculptures or paintings, can you share it with us? We can, of course, make sure that they stay anonymously, but then we at least have the information about the work. If you want to do that, contact me. That would be great. What else do we want to share? Ed?
I'm feeling a little guilty. I think I have a Sedna hidden over off screen. I don't think I've ever sent you photos, okay. And I'm negligent. I'll do that and get you better images of these paintings on wood. Or I only got one up now. I just there was a moment here when JP was noticing there's a very large piece that's on display at the gallery right now. Has 7 to 8 faces in it. You can suggest, often we wonder if, Floyd had a lot of faces. He was sometimes different people to those of us at the gallery had different relationships, but sometimes you'd meet him, 2 hours separate, and depending on where he was in his arc on that day, he would be fairly different. But that one piece, I don't know if we want to go back to pulling it, but it's the BC steatite, right? The large
one, yeah.
And JP said he has a description of the making of that piece.
Well, he asked me if I knew anything about his ancestors. And I said, Floyd, the only thing I know about your ancestors is my older sister had a book when she was in high school written by an explorer, I believe, from Denmark. And he had spent a year with the Inuit at the turn of the 20th century. And I said, the only thing I remember about the book was that it was the eldest son's responsibility to take the elders, once they could no longer feed themselves, they would take them to the edge of the open ice and they would rest them there, and they would stay there until they passed or fell into the ocean. And Floyd the next day came out and carved this particular carving
with all the faces and the eyes. That's the one.
Yeah, it's a BC steatite.
Yep. Well, if you have it, you can share it. I can try and pull it out.
I'm trying to find it, but I can't get it to pop up. It's untitled JP2.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's it there, but I can't get it to go big.
Oh, I see.
I'll go to the sculpture section.
Yeah, that's.
And then you have a Arcturus section there.
Yeah, I was just. Now BC steatite, was it a lot different to work with? Because most of the stone you got
very, very soft.
Softer than the Brazilian.
Softer than Brazilian.
And that's a big pink-like, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the most commented on pieces. The students at the university across the way, when they come in, our caretaker likes to suggest that they try and count the faces.
This one.
And okay, if you got it. Yeah, this guy. Which I'm trying to see if I get better images, because of course there's so many faces, and seeing it in person, it's very striking. Deborah's actually done a collage that kind of almost unintentionally responds to it. It's right next, and that's in the East Gallery, and there are the 3 other large ones as well in that room.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little scary, that room.
Okay. Well, I hope to see it this summer.
Oh, that particular piece I brought to New Brunswick in 2008, and I picked it up in 2019, and it had sat in the basement of my sister's house because her grandchildren were afraid of it, so they didn't display it.
So what I understood from the many faces that are in Floyd's sculptures, I mean, he sometimes had 3, 4 faces in there to look to all different angles, and sometimes they were shamans or people or animal in transitions, and people looking up were trying to either keep an eye on the spirits or keep track of the spirits so that you couldn't be attacked, or they were looking away to find animals to hunt, or all kinds of things. It's like it was it is really intriguing if you look at many sculptures by Floyd to see all these faces in there. Yes, he managed to get.
I think that I think where Floyd's connection to the shaman comes from is on the Reuben side of the family. They had a black ancestor who was a Portuguese whaler. I'm not sure how far back it went.
Okay.
But if you put Dave Rubin and Floyd together and put them in the sun, they don't sunburn. They get really dark skin.
Hmm.
But Manus Agligliapic, if he stays in the sun, he turns bright red. And most Inuit don't tan, they burn because they never had their skin exposed to a lot of sun in the north.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think it's amazing. We almost have covered 2 hours with interesting stories and images. I hope. I see some people have left. Robert, you joined us. I hope you find it interesting. I want to thank Linda. I think we're going to do to wrap up. I think unless somebody wants to join more stories. Linda, thank you very much for this contribution. It was wonderful. And also Martha, thank you very much. We will keep in touch.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
I hope you will consider to sharing sculptures and paintings of Floyd if you have them. Just let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for organizing this. That's really great. And good to see you again, Ed, JP. Thank you. Yeah. No. Linda, look you up next time I'm in Vancouver.
Absolutely. And Leslie, you too. Let me know when you're here.
Okay, hopefully November.
Thank you.
Okay, nice
Thank you
to
very
see you.
much. This was fascinating.
Thank you, everybody, for your attention.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you,
Okay.
Goose.
Till the next
Have
time.
a good day. Good night.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
2 hours.
Yeah.
That was a fast 2 hours.